All right. Welcome back to the Gulf Spec podcast. Unfortunately, it's a little early in Germany right now, so Anwar's not going to be joining us, but I do have a guest today. And I've got Saleh with me, and we go back a long ways.
Yeah.
He used to be my client when I worked on Infiniti, and I think one of the reasons we really connected was because he had this like G37, which seemed very normal at first, but then all of a sudden, it had a different engine in it. It got engine swapped, then it was manual swapped, and like it just kept progressing from there. And I think in the world of like corporate automotive, Samer's a bit of a rarity in the sense that he is a dyed-in-the-wool petrol head, right? And since then, he's worked for FCA, General Motors, and moved on to dealer groups in Qatar, which have included brands like Geely. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chevrolet, Geely, Hyundai, and now I look after Toyota and Lexus.
Yeah, so now you are the national sales director for Abdulghani in Qatar for Toyota and Lexus, as you just said. So, Samer, how's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me. It's been a foggy drive to get here, but I'm glad that we made it.
I like that neither of us live in Dubai.
Yeah, but
both of us were in Abu Dhabi, and we both somehow came to Dubai to record an episode. So that this is
logistical genius there. But
yeah.
Anyways, well, it's good. It's good to be here, and as you rightfully said, it's my love for cars got me in the industry. The G37 was a very cool project that got me broke, but was a very fun learning experience. That car, I don't know if you know, the Gulf-spec G37 never came with a manual.
Yeah, it didn't.
So I think that was one of the things I wanted to do. So first I'm like, you know what, let me join Infiniti Middle East and see if I can change that via product planning and convincing the right people on board. I realized that was a very big business case, and you had to convince a lot of people to do a lot of things, and it didn't make sense a lot, let's say. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to swap it myself. So I've always had a thing for Skylines and so on. So I decided to go with the Skyline engine. And that became like an engine swap. We got a Frankenstein engine. So there's an RB30 end, top bottom end, RB26 head. And yeah, we got swapping single turbo, manual gearbox from an RB25 and you know how that goes. And it was supposed to be a very low cost, quick swap project. But you know how these work.
Yeah.
I found a guy showed up from Bahrain and said, "Look, I'll buy your entire drivetrain. So your engine, gearbox, I'll buy the whole thing." So I'm like, okay, good. So that should free up money to do the engine swap, and we did that. And it was supposed to be just quick plug and play. Went to this shop in industrial area in Abu Dhabi Musaffah. And and he just looked at the engine bay and so he was an expert like RB and 2J engines, and it's all he did, but it was very cost effective, let's call it. So and then that happened. A year and a half later, we had a car that was running, but it wasn't 100%. So obviously there was a lot of troubleshooting, it's never been done before, right? So you end up having to customize a lot of that, what goes into it, engine mounts, transmission mounts, making sure the shifter sticks out in the right place. So getting all that sorted was not very easy, and then tuning it, and then getting the engine to talk to the vehicle, right? So you want the car to still, because I wanted daily drive. I actually daily drove it to work every day here, and actually I was working here in Media City, so I had to like drive it every day, and you had to make sure that everything worked, right? So like keys, when you lock the car, you wanted to make sure it locked, so people don't break into it. So that was quite an adventure, to be honest. That was quite an adventure.
That whole like era just reminded me of like a funny story, and that was I was buying a new car at the time that I was working on Infiniti, and I remember if you bought a car that was not Nissan or Infiniti, you couldn't bring it into the office gates or past you had to park outside and walk 100%. In or whatever. And everyone was telling me, oh, you should get the Infiniti G35 or the 37 or whatever. And ultimately I was just like, I want the Toyota 86. So I bought a manual Toyota 86, and they wouldn't let me bring it in. And like I remember like one or two of the clients were just like, they were not happy about this decision, but you were just like, hey, let's go check it out. And you walked out with me after a meeting, and we like popped the hood. And you're just like,
I mean, I don't do fanboyism, right? So I don't like hug a brand and stick with it. I enjoy cars because motorsport's fun. I enjoy the the engines and the sounds and the dynamics. So that's what I really enjoy, So when you get an 86 with like a boxer engine and a manual gearbox, that's something like I would love to drive, So I put the badge aside and I focus on the core of the car, and that's really what got me into the industry in the first place, right? I really wanted to be part of that. I wanted to build my own car, and then I realized, okay, maybe not. Let's focus on sales and marketing, and then I got in there.
So yeah, this is a really good segue then. Like what I would like to understand, I think because we were brainstorming this, and I remember you sent me a voice note about something which I had not heard before. Is you wanted to be an F1 driver?
Yeah, that was the ultimate dream. I would say that was the ultimate dream. F1 driver, but also because I liked the mechanics behind F1. So driver / mechanic engineer kind of.
You're in the wrong era, man. That was like the 60s and 70s.
I'm telling you, like exactly, like workshop mechanics turned F1, Carroll Shelby's of the world and so on. Like I missed that era for sure. But I really tried to get into it. So it started off by being an F1 scrutineer. So when F1 came to the UAE in 2009, there was a program through university. We reached the right people, and Mr. Ben Slayem at the time was looking for volunteers, and we put our hands up. I was a mechanical engineer in the university at the US, and they opened it up for us, and I signed up immediately. And part of what I wanted to do was to get to know the teams and like ask, learn how I could get in there. So we were on the technical scrutineering. So we were like, the referees, making sure the teams are not cheating and, doing what they're not supposed to be doing. And I figured through interactions with the teams, I could try and find my way in. And man, it was so difficult. Like I was applying left, right, and center. I really wanted to get in there. So that didn't work out. And then, fast forward a few years, I get a G37. And we started this club, right? So I said, this car is amazing to drive. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to drive this.
right?
Yeah. So literally started off by pulling people off the road. So I was in Abu Dhabi as I was driving around. Anytime I saw a G37, it was right when they launched it. And I would stop people on the street like, hey, cool car. Oh, you drive a G37, high five. And, we're best buddies in 2 minutes. And then I tell them, look, I'm trying to start a club, a G37 club. Would you guys be interested? And everyone immediately, like not a single person turned me down, regardless of age, demographic. Everyone was so excited because I felt that car was exciting to drive, and people that drive it are also equally excited. So 10 attempts later, we had 10 people, and we started the club. So we started an event, then we went to the dealer, say, hey, we're starting this up. You guys want to come join us? And they're like, yeah, and they welcomed us with open hands, and that club slowly started growing. They to the point where they were supporting me invite members. And then, funny story, one of the members was actually, so he bought a G37 for his wife. And when I rang him up, he was so offended. How'd you get this number? Why are you calling me? And I'm like, look, I'm trying to, I'm starting a club. Like, no, I need to know now how you got this number. Da, da, da. And eventually, he turned out he was from the regional office. And he was the guy that became like you know what, I love what you're doing. And I think he was the guy that if I was to owe my career to someone, it would be to him. And he was the guy that said, you know what, I'll open up a budget for you. I'll put you in touch with the marketing team. Come over. Went to Dubai to meet the regional office, and and then it just picked up from there. We had annual budgets. We were doing events. The club expanded from being a G37 only in Abu Dhabi to being a G37 across the country. And then the 350Z came on board. And that was the real, the passion for G37 for me started with the 350Z, because that was the ultimate car. When that came, V6, 300-ish horsepower.
The design
manual,
to this day, it's beautiful.
Exactly. You could buy that car today and it will not look out of place. It just looks it's an amazing sports car. And I think at the time, everyone wanted the 350Z. I discovered there was already a Facebook page, reached out to the guy. And then that club became a GTZ club with Lutfi, who was, I think he's still involved with the club now. I had to, unfortunately, because of my work, I could not, have conflicts of interest. So I stepped aside, and they're still very active. Actually, they still do events and so on. But I've been disconnected from that. But but then through that regional office, then that guy was super supportive. I started working with them unofficially, and then it became official. And he said, you know what, something opened up in Infinity. You want to join? And eventually I got a job with Infinity Middle East and started from there. I started my automotive career there in product and pricing. So that was my first objective. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get a manual G37. I'm going to make it happen. Watch me, guys. I'm telling everyone, watch me, guys. I'm going to make it happen. And then I
Still
get
waiting,
there,
man.
I'm like, nope, it's not gonna happen. Sorry, guys. It's like there's only 10 people that want to buy a manual G37 in the Middle East, apparently, or something like that. But yeah, so it couldn't justify the business case, and that's what I slowly realized, that it was all about the money. So as any commercial industry is, when you're outside the industry, like, yeah, why can't I have a twin turbo V8 on a G37? Why can't, the dreams? Why can't I modify my car? Why don't you let me, drive around the 1,000 horsepower G37 and still give me warranty? So as I got into the industry, then I started realizing all the, meeting all the finance people and all the commercials, and starting to understand that this is, as much as there's passion in this, a lot of people that worked in that industry are commercial people, and it's a business. They have to make money. They have to pay bills. So slowly I started realizing that, it's not as easy to make these dreams and aspirations come true, especially with the lead times they had, So if you were to decide at the time that you wanted to introduce a manual G37, it will come like 6-7 years later, right?
Yeah.
So by then a lot has changed. So it's also how good are you at predicting trends and futures when you're in planning.
So this is a really good segue. Like I want to loop back to your time at FCA, but only for a minute, and we'll do that later if we have time, because you're, to this date, the only person I know that's ever owned a Viper.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we'll come back to that. But I think you've hit on a really, really interesting point here with the building the business case for a lot of these products, because us as enthusiasts, we'd love to just like throw away all the screens. Why do we need EV? Why is everything not a manual? But like literally, you would sell one car a year, right? Like
100%.
Possibly. And now in your current role with Toyota and Lexus, with Abdulghani in Qatar, I think maybe start by, if you could start by painting a picture of what the Qatar market looks like, because overall, because I lived in Qatar a long time ago. I've worked with the Qatari government before, actually, but what I remember from there was that Toyota was so dominant, and not just Toyota. It was the Land Cruiser in particular. It wasn't. It wasn't a question of do you have a Land Cruiser. It was a question of how many do you have per household. Because like I knew siblings.
Was it
that
white or black? That was the question you asked.
Everyone just had one, and like. Worst case scenario, they would have the Lexus version, right? They would have the LX instead, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So I guess paint a picture of like Qatar for us, because I think a lot of people would be interested to hear that. I don't think it's a market we hear that much about.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that Qatar would have become a bit more popular with World Cup a few years ago. But yeah, it's not. It's I moved to Qatar, and the first thing that really, as you said, that wowed me was, wow, there's a lot of Land Cruisers here, right? And I realized that this is like a mandatory to have in a household. It's just a reliable car, and the resale value for Land Cruisers in Qatar has picked up so much that anyone that's rational and wants to thinking of this from a commercial standpoint always went with a Land Cruiser. You buy a Land Cruiser, you drive for a few years, you sell it, you don't lose a lot of money, and that's not the case with a lot of other brands in Qatar, because given the market size, and at the time also there's a lot of transients, so it's very expat based. It's almost 15% local, 85% expat, and a lot of people that come on short-term projects. So this kind of drives the mindset of people are buying cars with the intention of reselling them. So this is something that no one's that has that long-term vision of, I want to drive a car for 10 years, 15 years. I want something that doesn't break down. They want something that when in 2-3 years they have to leave, or their contract ends, or they have to go to a different country, to be able to sell without losing a lot of money. And I think that's where when you go and see a lot of Land Cruisers on the road and a lot of Toyotas, you think, okay, that's the car to have, right? So I think that's a strategy a lot of brands are pushing right now, is that even if I have to lose money in the short term, I want to get as many cars on the road to change that mindset, so that people, once they see it, then they say, okay, that's a brand I can trust. And then, which I think you see a lot with, for example, like Chinese brands today, is that they're subsidizing their sales big time to put as many cars on the road, and I think that's a strategy a lot of brands are following. But yeah, so this is about Qatar. Like you notice a lot of Toyotas, a lot of Land Cruisers. Lately, that's changing, obviously. So you're seeing a lot of, as you see everywhere, Chinese brands are coming in. Funnily, we're looking at a study the other day. In 2018, I think Chinese brands were around 1% of the market in Qatar. As of 2 months ago, they're 30%.
Wow.
One in 3 cars in Qatar is now a Chinese car. And these are the guys that report their sales. There's a bunch of brands as well that do not report their sales, so we don't have that count. But if you just focus on the guys that actually report their sales, you're looking at 30% mix, and that's a crazy mix, And you're starting to see that the younger generation, especially, are starting to change their their mindset and the perception of Chinese brands. You know, they're no longer brands that, you know, people are willing to take these risks and gamble with Chinese brands. And
I think Imtishan brought up that point, right? Like with a lot of these cars, like whether it's the Land Cruiser or the Camry or whatever, like for me, it was the Camry and Accord. He pinpointed exactly, right? And it was just like
Cressida.
that was the Cressida, right? These were my dad's cars. There's no way I'm going to drive one of those, right? Like, so I think maybe there's that. But what do you think are the in Qatar specifically, what do you think are the market drivers for people like switching to Chinese cars and so quickly? Is it a value consideration?
I think a lot of it is the coolness of being different.
Okay.
I feel there's a lot of that in Qatar. People want to be different, and they want to make statements like that. So they'll still have the Land Cruiser and Toyota at home. So this is not non-negotiable, right? But then they want to show up in the next new toy that is talk of the town. You know, whether it was the G Tour at the point, and now it's the other, you know, BYDs coming in, and then you've got, you know, the likes of Rocks, and so a lot of cool cars coming into the picture, and they like to talk about these cars. You know, the other day I was talking to a customer, and he came in with a Zeekr, I believe, and he was, you know, telling me all these stories about it, and, you know, acceleration, and, you know, so he was really passionate, you know, and I think that's the element. So as you said, like, he still has a Land Cruiser parked at home, but this is a new toy that he's playing with. I don't think it's a rational decision. So there's nothing commercially, you know, no one's thinking about RV resale value and, you know, what's going to get me in 2 years. None of that. It's, you know, it's priced very aggressively. So people are like, you know what's the worst that can happen? You know, I'll pay the money, I'll get the car, I'll play with it.
New shiny.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
New shiny toy, you know. So and you're seeing that a lot. You're seeing that a lot. People are in Qatar, you know, especially ones, you know, from like they have the disposable income. They're like, yeah, I'll get one, you know, get one for my kid, get one for my daughters. And you're starting to see it's like becoming a trend, you know.
That's really interesting to see. I mean, like, because I was in Saudi last week, and for example, over here in the UAE, all you see is Jatours everywhere. Yeah. Everything is a Jatour now, right? And I go to Saudi, and I saw, like, this is Riyadh specifically. I don't know what their sales are, but just anecdotally from what I could see on the roads, I think I saw 2 the entire week I was there. Yeah. And I was like, this is weird. It feels kind of like the same place, but it's, you know, I mean, I understand they're very different markets with different, you know, distribution, different, you know, demands, whatever. But that was kind of the general feel that, like,
and Saudi, you see a lot more like Korean cars. I feel they have a high market share. And like in Qatar, for example, the number 2 brand now is G Tour.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so this is unmatched anywhere. So if you really want to see G Tours populating, you come to Qatar. You see a lot of them.
So is it like the Land Cruiser and the T2? That's what.
Pretty much, yeah. Those are now Land Cruisers and T2s, and it's funny, you know. I would have never. The same people that are buying T2s today, if you spoke to them, you know, so the Land Cruiser went from a V8, so the VXR, the GXR V8s, and so on. They moved from V8 to a twin turbo V6. The twin turbo V6 is a superb engine. It's got the power, it's fast, it's got the low end, so it's a better, and it has much better fuel economy. So it's better in every aspect. But every time you spoke to a Qatari about it, what? You're killing the V8? Come on, man, how can you kill the V8? I love power, I can't drive V6. And you're like, dude, look at the numbers, look at the power, look at the fuel economy. So it was hard to convince someone that we're going from V8 to a twin turbo V6. People were against it. And then all of a sudden, these same people are saying, yeah, I don't mind. A G2 is a 2-liter turbo. No problem. It's okay. It's 130K. I don't care. So it's funny how times have changed. You know, the same. And I feel like it's a lot of psychology is that people convincing themselves, you know. So the same people that were against V8s now talk poetry about the V6 twin turbo and now say, yeah, I don't mind the 2-liter turbo, you know, in a G2 or in any other car. So
that's a really interesting point to me, because I remember back when this is an industry-wide transition, right? This isn't like driven by the Qatar market or the GCC or anything. It's like everyone has been like sizing down their engines, but increasing, like reducing cylinder count, but increasing forced induction or whatever to get better, you know, improve fuel economy. Now this like the hybridization or electrification, right? But I remember BMW at the time, it was in the previous generation 7 Series, they were ready to kill the 12-cylinder. but they couldn't do it because of the Middle East, Russia, and like one other market I can't remember. The demand for the 12-cylinder was so strong. They're like, we can't, because it's actually a status symbol, right? So we can't just say this is the 760, but it's got a V8 hybrid, you know, like, so they had to keep the V12. I don't know if the current generation has a V12 anymore, but I can't remember. I honestly
think that maybe they've gone V8 twin turbo.
I just keep looking at, like, it just they push the i7 so hard that it just feels like an electric car to me. Like I know there's petrol versions, but I've forgotten. But I think that takes us to another interesting point, right? Like, is like, what other, so we've covered the the prevalence or the rise of Chinese cars and Jetour specifically in the market. But what are the other trends that you're seeing in Qatar, and then maybe overall in the Gulf, that you could speak to right now?
The trend. So one thing I'm seeing is status quo is changing a lot. So it's if you looked earlier on, you would see that a brand would dominate and they would be in the number one position, and that's the way it is, right? So you didn't have these threats coming in, and when they came in, they didn't make a big dent. I think right now you're seeing disruptions, right? So there's anytime especially with the Chinese coming in. So I think that's what I'm noticing mostly right now is that these cool, with the availability of social media and trends and people wanting to be trendy and different, you're seeing a lot of people experimenting and trying out different brands just to be different. So I see that a lot in Qatar. I see, funnily, EV was introduced as economically makes sense economically. So people, the EV business case, when it was introduced, it was to save on fuel and to save money and so on. And what I'm seeing right now is that people are driving EVs because of the coolness factor, not because they want to save money. And I still feel like people here are, when you look at the EV brands, it's not the small, anytime a brand introduces like a small, economic, efficient EV brand, doesn't sell. And what ends up selling are the big, flashy, shiny, technologically advanced, expensive EV brand, which defeats the whole purpose, right? So I'm seeing that a lot, and I think a lot of brands bet on EV too much too soon. Yeah. And that's one of the things I like about Toyota. Is like Toyota's sitting there and watching, like, okay, do we go all in? No, hang on, let's do the hybrid first and see how that goes, because that gives you like the best of both worlds. And I think they were like, whoever decided to do that, should be given a tap on his shoulder, because really they a lot of brands that went all in and saying, I want to be 100% green and EV by 2030 or whatever, and now realizing like, oh crap, I'm losing a lot of money. Go back, I
mean, if I'm honest about that, that looks like, to a large extent, that was the result of, or the fallout of Dieselgate for Volkswagen, right? Like, because they were doing so strong with diesel and even their fuel cars, but diesel was so reputationally and financially bad for them, the whole scandal, that they had to pull back and say, okay, we're going to commit fully to EVs. I think they, and I'm happy to be corrected by the audience on this, but like, they then worked with their lobbyists to get the laws changed in Europe, and everyone then had to kind of follow suit, because they're such a juggernaut when it comes to like global auto sales. But I think now, Toyota had the comfort and luxury of being so big that they could commit to a multi-fuel strategy, right? They didn't have all their eggs in one basket. They were still with petrol. They still had hybrid. They dabbled in EV a little bit, and they're still, from what I've seen at least, and you can correct me, is like they still seem to be committed to hydrogen as well. Like that's the thing that they keep talking about at every opportunity. But what would you say is so you do have hybrid models on sale. What do you think is the take up for that in your, like, which one is it the Camry, Corolla Cross, something like that? Or?
The entire lineup now, you can, I think Toyota and Lexus will become 100% hybrid at some point. Yeah. So slowly we're starting to see, like, the new RAV4, for example, is coming with a hybrid. And across, like, like, for example, you can't get a full option RAV4 that's not a hybrid anymore.
Oh, okay.
As an example, the RAV4 Adventure. Camry hybrids, people were initially scared of hybrids, but you see them in a lot of taxi fleets, and they're doing crazy mileage, 300, 400, 500,000 kilometers, no questions asked. So the fear, that reliability fear that was associated with hybrids is no longer there. So commercially, and now we're seeing a lot of companies. So Toyota does a lot of sales also to B2B. It's not all retail. And when you see that all the B2B businesses are going after hybrid because you get the best of both worlds. You don't have to worry about, your car and charging and so on, but at the same time you get the fuel mileage, and the price gap is not as crazy as a full EV. So you're starting to see these companies slowly move into hybrid as well. The thing with EV here, fuel is very cheap in the region, right? So it's not as expensive as you see in Europe or in the rest of the world. So commercially, convincing someone to go EV for the commercials of it might not make sense for retail, but when you go to businesses and you start crunching numbers on a fleet of 1,000 cars or 2,000 cars, then it makes a difference. Every penny you save on fuel is money that's in your pocket.
And not just that, some of the large multinationals, they have like ESG ratings and commitments,
that
like,
as well.
To show
yeah.
to their investors or whatnot. And if you've got a hybridized or at least or electrified fleet of cars, that certainly
100%.
Helps, right? So yeah, I'm
like
sure.
in Qatar, there are tenders, for example. You cannot bid on certain tenders if you don't have a Class A rating, for example.
Okay.
And for example, a lot of banks now are, we spoke to a few banks in Qatar, and apparently they're doing hybrid finances, so like interest-free or like low interest financing, out of pocket to maintain that sustainability rating, to be able to get the government subsidies and the benefits from the central bank and so on. So there is an element, there is a government push, obviously, to go EV and green.
So are they incentivizing individual sales as well? So like if I were, they're like in the US they have like tax credits towards EVs. Not that there's taxes in Qatar, but
I think businesses are incentivizing it, and banks are incentivizing it. So if you wanted to finance an EV, you probably get a better interest rate than you would if it was petrol engine. Because hybrid and EV are coming whether we like it or not. So I think a lot of dealers are also, or manufacturers are putting effort into swaying customers in that direction and making it more attractive. To try and get them to say like, hey guys, look, you get the benefit. It's not so bad. Best of both worlds. And I think that's where hybrid really hit the nail in the coffin. Like, you get the performance and the enjoyability of a petrol engine, the engine revving and all that, but then you also get the mileage and the economy and the range extension from hybrid. So the best of both worlds, really.
So I guess on a related note, is that new FJ coming to the region?
It is.
Okay.
It is around the corner. It should be in the middle of next year.
Okay.
Sometime, yeah.
I personally think it looks really cool. I will speak for Anwar, who thinks it's ugly, but he's not here, so we don't have to listen to him today.
It's. I think the pictures don't do it justice. Like many cars, it feels and looks a bit smaller than it actually is. I think it's a funky toy. It looks funky. I like the way it looks. I think it'll be rugged as well. So I haven't driven the car yet. I can't comment on performance, but I think it will. I think it will do good. So we're excited.
I have this, and I have a question based on this as well. Is that I remember when I was at university in Qatar centuries ago, before they officially went on sale in Qatar, there was quite a bit of a gap before they arrived. Okay. I think they went on sale in the US first, and then the rest of the world got them much later, a year or two. I think there was a lag there.
Yeah.
So one of my professors ordered a burgundy-colored FJ in America and had it shipped. He liked it so much, and the color, like think about that for in respect to Qatar. Yeah.
Okay.
And he ordered it. It was the first FJ in the country.
Okay.
And he was stopped everywhere by every Qatari offering like cash on the spot to buy that car off of him. I think he let it go within 6 months because the offers were so high. But
he couldn't drive anywhere without being harassed.
Yeah. Does it still have that cult following there?
It's still crazy. It's one of. I still think it's one of the favorite cars. Qatar is big on off-roading and going
trips
to the desert, sea line. Exactly. Yeah. So you would know. I don't have to explain that. So and I think the FJ was one of the key. It was just you could drive it on the road and you can drive it in the desert, and it had a good balance between both. And I think until today, people still like you put a used FJ on Qatar sale and it flies. Like it's really big demand on it. Our used car department as well. Like we did a few trade-ins, and these cars could not. They sold too fast. Like we couldn't even advertise them before they sold. So so there's still the whole cult around FJ, and people asking when's the FJ coming? When's the FJ coming? So, and I think I heard a story. I don't know how true that is, but I think the FJ was part of the reason it was extended because of demand in the Middle East. So I think Toyota had plans to scrap it earlier, And because of the continued demand in the region, I think it got extended. But this was a story I heard. It was before my time. It could be.
No, I think that's true because I recall a period like where you would get onto like the UAE website and brand new FJs, but you'd go like on Reddit and like the Toyota forums, people would be like, "Oh no, I wish I could still buy an FJ," and like the rest of the world's like, and this was mainly like America and whatever. But I think Japan and the Middle East may have been the last to stop getting them. I think it was recent, like within the last couple of years, where they stopped those. But that's super interesting. There was so now this is we hadn't talked about this. So if you this is just a question that came to mind right now. Is one of my absolute favorite cars of all time is a really weird one, but it's the V12 Toyota Century.
V12, wow. Okay.
So the second generation, the second generation, there was the only.
Is it just the engine or the entire car?
It's just, I mean, okay. I have a little scale model of the car on my work desk at home, but like, I think it's interesting that it looks like it came from another era, but it's completely modern and has the only V12 that's ever been utilized for one car. It's just a weird thing, right? Like we've put this in this car only for this car. We're not going to use it anywhere else, but I love it for that. You know, I love cars like that are super random.
V12 in a solo, and people using that V12 to like in drift projects and race cars, and they're doing crazy stuff with it.
I think the CEO of Lexus US at some point, I remember he was doing an interview. He built an American style like hot rod. And I think he had stuffed like the V12 Century engine in there, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." I can't remember if that was the exact story. Maybe it was a Lexus V. I don't know, but it was. He had definitely taken some obscure Japanese engine choice and thrown it into a very American-looking hot rod. I wonder if that car still exists. But
I'll have to look it up.
I guess on a related note, like I think we've just seen the announcement of Century as a brand. What do you think of that? Like, I mean, just like, are they going like, is that Maybach level now, or they're targeting Maybach, or because it felt like even with Lexus, like I remember when they first launched it, it was launched outside of Japan because in Japan Toyota is such a strong brand. You don't need a luxury tier, right? Yeah. You can sell a luxury Toyota and an economic Toyota or like economy Toyota, and people don't care. It doesn't matter from a brand like reputational level or whatever. True. But in America, for example, like this is a Toyota. This is for peasants. Yeah. So
actually, Lexus, a funny story. Lexus was actually introduced, and the name Lexus actually came from luxury export US.
Oh,
that's where Lexus comes from. Believe it or not.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it was like a funny board, like they were brainstorming what they should call the brand, because as you rightfully said, when they launched it, the plan was not to launch Lexus in Japan. It was for aimed at the US market, and that's what they came up with, and Lexus stuck, and it is the brand it is today. Again, I think they saw a space they wanted to be in, and Century comes like it's that ultra luxury domain, ultra high end. So I think they're introducing, they're becoming an independent brand, and I think they are an independent brand actually. But they want to introduce a couple of cars in that lineup. They showed a few cars at the motor show in Japan. I think last month. Yeah. So
right now they've got the sedan, the traditional like sedan, and they've launched the SUV as well, which has got the suicide doors and things. But then, like when that SUV came out, I remember I was on WhatsApp with Anwar. I was like, "Yo, this is gonna they're gonna turn this into another brand, aren't they?" And then lo and behold, like now I think there's like that elevated coupe situation. Not sure how I feel about it, but I'm excited. I'm excited about this brand. Do you know anything about it? Like, are you allowed to say anything about it? Like,
so not much of it is confirmed. So I'll just like Japanese tend to keep things secrets when it comes to this stuff. So I can tell you that it is going to become an independent brand. Whether it will sell out of an independent, whether it's going to become fully independent or piggyback on Lexus and then become a separate brand. So there's a lot of talks around how it's going to go to market. But the lineup and what's coming to the region right now, there's only talks of the SUV, but obviously it's going to expand down the road, and they have a lot of
sorry,
cool
I didn't mean to
ideas.
put you on the spot for that or anything, but like but
I mean, I also don't want to say something that's not accurate. I don't have anything. All I hear for now is talk, so we don't have like a proper plan yet, so we'll see.
So what are so we've spoken about the Land Cruiser and the FJ. What are currently the other like strong sellers in Qatar for Toyota?
So, and again, Hilux is a big player. Okay. So both to retail individuals and to companies. So Hilux is, I would say, still the most reliable go-to pickup when it comes to that segment. So companies, especially businesses, mostly because of its ruggedness and lives forever. And then when you come to sell it, you can sell 300,000, 400,000 kilometer Hilux for without losing much money on it. So that's I think still the go-to, even though it's if you look at the segment, it is the most expensive in the segment, but commercially it still makes sense. Other cars, the Yaris obviously is very popular again. So Qatar's dynamic is a bit different because there's a high percentage of sales go to B2B.
Right.
So I would say probably 30-70 or 40-60 in that range. So 40% of sales go to retail and 60%.
Wow, okay,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
That's my. I don't have numbers, but I feel from what I've seen through various companies, that's usually the mix. And again, that's tied into the country's demographic of transient leasing, people working on contracts. So people.
So the company car is like still
company
a thing.
car is a thing.
Okay.
Is a thing. Yeah, there's a lot of leases, and Qatar's economy also depends on a lot of conferences and events that they organize.
Right.
So a lot of people come in short term, temporarily, and you'll see like in summer, when it gets too hot, all the country goes to sleep, and then come Q4 and Q1, it's crazy. Like conferences, events, whether it's business or commercial, political, or even sports. It's just busy. So you see a lot of the cars that you would see in a rent-a-car kind of environment. So like Camrys, Yaris's, Corollas, small SUVs are becoming a thing. So urban cruiser is picking up a lot.
Okay.
RAV4, the new Prado is impressive, to be honest.
It looks great. Yeah.
It's a solid car. Like,
is it just the petrol version in Qatar?
For now, in the region, they haven't introduced there are plans to introduce a hybrid.
Okay.
Don't know if I should say that, but yeah. Anyways, so there's probably a hybrid coming around the corner in a few years. But yeah, it's a cool car. We couldn't get enough of them in the first year, to be honest. The demand was overwhelming. A lot of upset customers, who would get on a waiting list and couldn't get one fast enough. So that was. We had to, ramp up our production and get, allocated enough cars for our market, and that took some time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had to. It was a consumer protection got involved, and we had to, standardize the process to take orders and first come first serve kind of approach, because the demand was really overwhelming when we launched the car.
I feel like that's what happens every time a patrol launches in the UAE. But
True.
But and so every stop you've had along the way, and starting with that G37, you've had a very, very interesting on-brand car. Do you have a Toyota or Lexus in your garage right now?
I had a Supra.
Okay.
I had a manual Supra for a while, and I think I had to accept that driving it daily was just not becoming practical. I convinced myself that I would do it, and I did it for a year, and then I just gave up. It was not the most practical. I had to worry about, especially when I have meetings in the industrial area or with customers. If I have a predictable route, then I'll take the Supra. But a lot of the days, I don't have a predictable. Like, I don't know where the company location or the person that I'm meeting, where I'm going to meet. Or some meetings come up, last minute you get called in, government meetings. And, I had a modified exhaust on it as well. So, yeah, I'd rock up to a professional meeting with a loud ass car. I still remember we were going to a meeting, and I told my boss, like, hey, you wanna come with me? It's like, yeah, let's take your car. And I don't think he expected that we would take the Supra. I think he thought I had because I was also driving a Lexus company car. And I think he thought we were in the Lexus or something. And then he rocks up, and it's this Supra, tiny ass car. Like, okay. We get in, I start it, and it was like that exhaust was practically a straight pipe. I mean, I don't know why they call it a cat back. There was no cats or backs. Anyways, but yeah, it was really loud. As soon as I started it, cold start. He's like, nope, we're taking my car. So switch off the car, jump in his Lexus, and we go to the meeting. And I think it's started realizing that driving a manual every day, not the most practical. A lot of fun, but can you rip your car every day going to work? It's eventually it gets old, especially when you're stuck in traffic and cops everywhere, and you can't really enjoy driving a manual as much. So fortunately, I had to go, and right now I'm still waiting. There maybe the new GR Yaris. I don't know if you've seen it. That's something I've got my eyes on. That thing is a toy. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to drive one.
No.
It will blow your mind.
Did they bring the GR Yaris to this market at all?
Very soon.
Okay.
Very soon. Stay tuned.
Okay, no, this is the news. This is like
yeah. So we're finally actually. So just like Century is becoming a brand, a GR is going to become a brand.
Oh, okay.
So the Yaris and the Corolla.
So the Corolla's. The last episode we talked about cars that are not in the Middle East that should be, and I was like, the GR Corolla needs to be here.
Oh, they're coming. They're coming. So I had a GR Corolla in mind. So a GR Corolla. So we imported non-GCC spec because we have the GR racing racing series now. So what we're actually doing is we get like enthusiasts in the country, and we have around like 10 teams, and they compete in a GR Cup, and they compete in Qatar, and then they go compete in Kuwait with the Kuwait GR series as well. So to do that, we had to import a few non-GCC spec for racing purposes, and I had a chance to drive one of the cars. And I was immediately mind blown. Like the car was not modified, so it's not like stock, but just like they end up having roll cages and slight modifications. So it's not like souped up or it's got like big turbos, nothing. And man, these cars, the GR Yaris specifically was really mind blowing. Such a toy, so nimble, point and steer, kind of, just like beautiful. And I'm like, no, that's a car. So I kept that car in mind. It was a bit too basic inside, so eventually I felt like it would get boring driving it daily. Every day, but it's definitely a cool toy to have. The GR Corolla was a bit more refined. So a GR Corolla is like, if you want a daily driver that is less crazy and stiff, but more fun, more of a daily, I felt like Corolla was also, had 4 doors and it's a bit more practical. So they're both coming. Coming.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I definitely need to go talk to a UAE Toyota dealer right now.
Put your name.
I need to talk about the Corolla GR. Yeah.
Put your name down. The new GR Yaris as well. Like looks crazy. Like rear fenders, spoiler. It looks, and not just looks, but also does the walk. Not just talks it. So I'm very excited for the GR Yaris. Really, I think I might end up buying one.
That's cool, man. Like, I love it. I love it. You always, like I said, we started the podcast with that, and like you always keep it real when it comes to the cars. But now, let's. I think this is a good point to go talk about. I need to talk about this Viper, right? Because I love the Viper. Like I don't know how you like talked yourself out of it at some point, but I'm sure there's reasons. What was it like having a Viper?
I could not talk myself out of it, to be honest. So it was at the peak of my RB adventure with the G37. So at that point, it was I had the G37. I left Infinity Middle East. I joined Stellantis, and as I was there, we had one Viper. It was 104, I think, in the region. It had the special candy red paint. So the Vipers at the time, they had this program where you could order a custom paint. They call it the Striker package.
Okay.
And it had I think 4 coats. Like a special paint, looked like very different kind of shine, and they had Striker red, green. They had a few colors, and I think only 4 of this Striker red was ordered to the region. And it was a press car, so it was a car that actually brought it in, and I think like it was the car. So if you look at all the regional videos that were shot with the Viper, when you see like the red Viper that was used for events, I think Arab GT and I think Imtishan probably drove it. And so that press car was put on auction internally, saying, okay guys, we're selling the car, who wants it? And I could not believe that. And it was such a good deal. I'm like, okay, fine. I need to jump on this. So I put my, sadly, I put my G37 up for sale, and it sold for peanuts. I just wanted to sell it. I could not afford to have both cars at the time. So I had to sell the G37, and I jumped on the Viper as soon as I put my name down. I won the bid, and I bought the car, and it's a big word to say. I think it was one of the best, if not the best car I've ever, like there was something about owning and driving that car. It was a gas guzzler. Like I spent more time at the gas station than I spent on the road, really. Like it was crazy. But yeah, it was an 8.4 liter V10 manual, only manual. The pedal position was weird. So it was like you sat a bit weird, and you burnt your foot every time you stepped out because the exhaust came out of the side. Yeah. So that was like a Viper thing, like your calf,
foot scars.
Yeah, foot scars all the time. Yeah. But yeah, it was a really fun car. It was beautiful. I I think I might end up buying one down the road.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's
Would you go with the same generation or like
same generation? Probably an ACR.
you had the third generation, or was it?
No, it was a fifth. It was a fifth generation.
Oh, right. Okay, in my mind, because I know they call it the fifth generation officially, but in my mind, there's like the original, then there's the updated one, and then there's the one.
So the iconic. So there was the original. That was the classic looking.
The one that was made with like tape and like. like
I don't want to say. I have to watch what I say on the podcast. But yeah, it looked like the fender gaps you could see them from a mile away. That's how like it was. It looked like
the windows. You had to like.
Yeah, but again, it was the first Viper, and it was a project. I think that was it was during
the Bob Lutz thing.
Yeah. So. It was a cool car, like it's iconic, but it was the second generation Viper.
So that was the GTS. Would that be the
GTS with the two, like the blue with the two stripes. That was like every kid had that. Like I had a poster.
I had the diecast car. Wow, yeah.
That was the car. If you wanted to own a Viper, that was the Viper to own. But again, it was like it was a bit too extreme, right? As well. So you have to they had no electronics, no, it was your foot, you and your foot, really. So you had to really be careful driving these cars. And then I think they had the third and fourth generation. They looked a bit similar.
The third and fourth generation, like they always felt like the weak link. I didn't even know the fourth existed because the third was a better designed, I guess. Not better looking. I don't think it was the worst looking.
I think it was better engineered.
Better engineered. Like the roof properly worked and like the windows were electric.
Exactly.
Like stuff like that.
So,
But then the fourth was a fixed head version of that, which I actually didn't know existed until I looked it up like 2 years ago. I was like, wait, that happened?
Yeah, exactly. So that wasn't popular. But then the fifth generation was really popular. It came with electronics. It came with a screen. So it came with all the gadgets that you needed to even drive the car daily. You could, I think I drove it daily for some time, and it was
wow. Yeah, okay. No, because you keep hearing about how scary they are, but like
they bite, man. They bite. You really have to. The torque that you get at such a low end is crazy. You put your foot down, the car wants to go sideways. Plus, they didn't do it a favor because they gave it almost semi slicks. It came with semi slick Pirellis. And these Pirellis were like when they're cold they slide around, like you need to get them up to temperature, and not many people also knew that. So when it's cold, rev it, try to show off at a car meet, whatever, you end up hugging a wall, so it was one of those cars you had to really be careful driving. The fifth generation was the first one that actually had traction control, so people weren't killing themselves in them like they used to in the previous generations. But that car was it just looked amazing. The hood was the side exit, the V10 sound, it was iconic.
If I ever get around to actually owning a Viper, it would be fifth generation. But I'd have to go back to that second generation paint job. I need the blue with the white stripes.
The white stripes. Yeah, that's the one to have. Yeah. I think that's So that's a legendary car.
So you said that was probably the best car you've ever driven. What else is on that list?
What else is on that list? I like the Huracan.
Okay.
So the Huracan was a. Anytime I wanted to spoil myself, I would rent one.
Okay.
So that was. I love the V10. So I think after the Viper, I got attached to V10s, but this was a different design V10. So this is like a high revving, screaming V10 versus the Viper was more of a low rev, torquey. I don't think it was the best sound. So the V10 on the Viper is not the best sounding V10. Unless you're flooring
it's the LFA.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. Yeah. So the Lexus LFA, for example, that was Yamaha engineered V10. So that car sang like the engine.
That's perfectly on brand too. You can use things. The Lexus LFA is the greatest car ever made. Yeah.
I don't know about that, but it was the engine. Yeah. The engine was like the engine note was wow. I like V10s in general. I think the V12 as well. The ones you get on Aventadors and 812s, and you really get like the nice, the F1 sound, especially when you made it with the right exhaust. Mm-hmm. You get really like F1 sounds, and they touch your heart. You literally feel them go through your body. It's not just your ears. You feel the vibration. So. What else? What else did I drive? I like V8 3-wheel drive. So I had a ZL1 at some point. It was a manual ZL1 as well when I first moved to Qatar.
ZR1 or ZL?
L.
Oh,
The Camaro ZL1.
oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, so that was fun to drive as well. Modified it a little bit, so it had a nice supercharger whine and and manual as well. And they had the Tremec. The Tremec is a fantastic 6-speed gearbox as well. So very notchy, predictable. You know, you could get the right gear all the time. You don't have to worry about misshifting it. So that one was nice. What else we had? We had a Z06 as well. That was also cool. Very long first gear, so it felt like it was accelerating forever before you get in second. Yeah, but yeah, I would say yeah, the Viper. The Viper. There's something different about the Viper. It's just the character. It comes with that character, the rawness. You know, it's something we miss with all the electronics that we have today, and you start to feel a bit disconnected. Right. With the Viper, you were super connected. You felt everything. It was harsh to drive. It was uncomfortable. Like for any passenger to get in the car, uncomfortable. But to drive, it was a beast.
I mean, I recall. You know, I miss my 86 on certain days.
Yeah.
But I think with my current commute, it's just not like a tenable option anymore. But I remember, you know, and I think my wife used to complain that, you know, oh, the ride's too hard.
Yeah.
It's like my back hurts, you know, like people would come visit, like her family would come visit. We'd have to shoehorn them into the back of the thing. Like it was just, you know, because I'm like, this is really her fault for not having a license and a second car. But no, I get it. And it's just, you know, but I miss that. Every single one of those little like flaws adds up to the character of the car.
100%.
But I think I've never seen or experienced something that's just so like outlandishly characterful as for me the Viper. I think maybe for me a close comparison would be something like the TVRs at their peak. You know, like they were like if they worked they were special. You know, like I've been around a Tuscan a couple times and it was just. I didn't sit inside it or anything. I just heard it. I saw it. I was just like, wow, this is like, and it looks like nothing else on the road. This is the same for the Viper. I feel like that is the British and the American interpretation of like what a minimalist, like muscular sports car would look like if it came from a different planet. You know, like
100%.
That's the
100%. I remember renting a Shelby Cobra replica.
Okay.
In South Africa, it's a thing. So if you ever go to South Africa, make sure you get one of those.
It's AC is a South African brand. No, it's there's ownership. I
don't know. Yeah, I don't know the story behind it, but it's literally like open roof, side exhaust, V8, and like just basic, no technology, nothing, just you and the car. And I think that's something we miss nowadays. Like nowadays, you feel like there's a lot of intervention and intrusion, and you feel like the electronics are driving the car rather than you. You miss that connection. You have electric steering now, so it's not like. And then with that car, it's very minimal. Like there's nothing, almost zero electronics in that car. It's all like I don't remember. Probably didn't even have. I don't know if it had power steering. I'm trying to remember if it had power steering, but it was one of those like super light, super fun to drive. You just rip it through the gears, and that's one thing I miss. I miss that. Like if I ever get the time again, I want to build like a project car of some sort that is like similar to that. Like maybe it's something you get with like a KTM or something, you know, where it's just very raw. It's just drive like steering wheel. Yeah, something along these lines. I miss the rawness of that. You know, making all the nice noises, the right noises. Maybe an RB again. Maybe I'll get back into an RB kind of project. I think that would be fun.
So going back to like the corporate level, because I think you've hit on an interesting point about like all the electronic like nannies and things like that in the car now. It's do you think that as a wider trend in the industry, it feels like we've gone too far and now we're starting to like roll it back a little bit, or I almost feel like I'm trying to make sense of it as an enthusiast, right? Because on one side you've got this like unstoppable like march towards autonomy and electrification and stuff like that, but I feel like it's not the only route. I feel like there's this alternative path that like people like Gordon Murray and Singer and stuff are also taking us down, where it's like, no, there is still a space for, admittedly a very expensive space for, but you know, Toyota's doing it too with the GR cars, clearly, where there's still a space for something that's much more connected with manual, you know, stuff like that. And I mean, it's not, and I feel like it's not not just in cars, right? Like you see it, like the Walkman has come back, like, like people are buying cassettes again, and like CD players are back all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think one thing's for sure: the regulators are not car guys. That's
Right.
this. I think this is where the problem stems: is that the regulators are pushing very hard, to, and for the right reasons, probably, global warming, carbon neutrality, and so on. But all these regulations being put are slowly killing the enjoyment of the car world.
Right.
So engines are getting smaller, they're getting quieter, they're getting turbocharged. Now I'm hearing about noise. So the new European regulation putting restrictions on the noise. And I'm reading an article about AMG having to do something with the C63 engine because of that regulation. So if you look at what's driving this, really, it's the emissions, it's the emission regulations. So the engines are getting smaller. The V10, like for example, for me, the V10 on the Lamborghini disappeared. And now it's a twin turbo V8 that is probably a lot faster, but you don't get the same character.
it's apparently brilliant, but it's not the same.
But
Yeah.
it's not the same. You rev it and it's like, why does it sound like a vacuum cleaner? What's going on here? So it's I don't know. So I think all these regulators are tampering too much with what makes driving enjoyable. So this is really putting a lot of stress on manufacturers to make fun cars. When you have to navigate around all these regulations. And that's why, as you said, the Gordon and all these cars that end up being fun to drive become so expensive because they had to R&D the hell out of these cars to make them somewhat compliant, tick a box somewhere. But yeah.
I think it goes back to what you were saying, is that it's about the money, right? And I think the market has spoken, because I think I don't even. This is going to be embarrassing, but I don't actually remember the names of many of the Ferraris anymore. Like the numbers have gotten so weird. Yeah. But the replacement for what would have been the 458,
how amazing was that car?
Yeah, 458?
Yeah.
That was peak Ferrari, I think. That was just like Ferrari at their absolute best. It was beautiful, naturally aspirated, brilliant to drive.
Made the right noise, drove and...
The only thing it was missing, it's the only Ferrari I've driven. No, I've driven the 430 as well. But But I think the only thing it was missing is I don't think there was a manual option on the 458, right? That was the first one where they'd gone fully with the automated manual. I won't call it automatic.
Automated manual. But that's I think that's when again the regulators you're starting to see V6s now, and even F1 went into V6s. And think of the sound and difference. I was in the Yas Marina when that transition happened, and they went from a beautiful V8 to a V6, and I heard them both live, and it was the first year in my life where I was in a garage and I did not need earplugs. Okay, maybe I'm partially deaf, but like when the V8s were there, you had to, before they start the engine, someone put their hand up and everyone reached out for their earplugs because it was so loud, and
I remember
the whole shop would shake.
What did they have in 2004 in F1?
The V10s.
So I saw the first. I was at the first Bahrain Grand Prix, and I remember I was not ready. Yeah, like I had to go buy like. I was with a really close friend of mine's family had taken me because I bought tickets, but like I couldn't go alone. I was very young at the time, so they're like, "Hey, we're all going as a family. You can come with us." So like thank you, Simpson family. But that was my first like real experience of Formula One, and I went and I caught the V10 era. It was amazing, but it was just they had to buy me earplugs because I'd come with like a couple hundred reals with me, and I was just like what am I gonna do? But it's cool. But I think what I was saying about the market having spoken is that the latest version of the Ferrari 458, I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called. I'm not going to try to, but it's a hybrid, right? Or no, it's a hybrid.
I think it's called the F8 now, if I'm not mistaken. But you're right. I can't.
I can't
so
remember.
They went 458, 488. I think then they launched the F8.
I can't remember what they did with the names. But yeah, that they got to the current version, and it's supposedly amazing. Like the reviews like rave about it, but there's no resale for it. Nobody wants them. The queues that those lines, multi-year lines that you used to have for Ferraris, like they're having trouble selling them now. Like, and this is an issue because Ferrari is now a public company. They're not private anymore. So, there's even more pressure for it to work. And they've arguably, and I think the Gordon Murray car was a proof of concept in many ways for the market, is that this is V12, naturally aspirated, manual transmission is still something people want and will pay premium for. So.
And I think that's the issue, is that the cars are, as the cars are become more electric and hybrid, and they're losing this character that they once had 10, 20 years ago, right? The cars where a supercar was a proper supercar. When it drove by, you felt it, you sat in it, it was uncomfortable. Now they've got all these bells and nannies, and they're aimed at you driving it every day, which is, and I don't know. So it's I don't want to speak too much about other brands, but yeah, it's. I think character, maintaining character is a problem nowadays. I feel, especially in the high end.
I hated that word for a while, character. It always felt like something the journalists made up.
Yeah.
But once you've owned a few cars that are that have had that or been around them, you're just like, okay, I understand, it's a real thing. But I think we're coming up on time. As you know,
has it been an hour already?
Yeah,
wow, okay.
yeah. It's been
that's what
fun,
happens
man.
when we talk cars, man. Yeah, it's I can go all day.
This is literally why we started the podcast. It wasn't like because we wanted to like get famous or anything. Like I keep telling people, like, oh, are you going to monetize it? I'm like, we spend money on this, guys, but we're losing money. But it's just because we want to have.
I'm spending money to talk.
Yeah, it's like therapy. But no, apology to that's not a fair comparison. But is there? We are so inappropriate now.
You're gonna have to crop it out. Probably.
Yeah, but is there anything you want to leave the audience with? Anything we haven't touched on that you wanna bring up?
No, not really. I mean, I think we need to gather up and keep that car, keep the manual going for sure. That's one.
Save
I think
the manuals. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to save the manuals. I think this is a responsibility we all have to keep driving manuals, to keep going for the manual driving license. Because now it's not, during our time it was mandatory, right? You could not get a license. I don't know about you, but like I did not have an option to have an automatic license. It was manual only, and I loved that, and I went for it. Actually, this was in Sharjah, so in Sharjah it was manual only. I think if I went to Dubai, I could have gotten automatic, and many people were doing that. But I'm like, no, I'm sticking with Sharjah. I'm gonna get my manual, and I think that we need to do that. I think we need to more people need to really go out of their way, learn how to drive a manual. So that when you go to Europe, at least you can drive, because there's still a lot of manuals in Europe when you get there. So save the manuals, keep the culture going, and let's see. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of years ahead with how the industry is headed.
Well, Samer, thank you so much for
it's been a pleasure.
doing your part for the industry, for taking the time to come down to talk to us, and sharing what I think is a really, like, how you got into the industry. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel, we've talked about a lot of things. It's been a wide-ranging conversation, but I think it's a really inspiring story that I think a lot of us car enthusiasts, like, either wish this is the way in, but it just shows, I think it should show hope to, like, a generation perhaps that hopefully, I don't know how young our listeners are, how old, they're probably all retirees, like, oh, save the manual.
The manuals, But no, I mean, look, it's the industry. The automotive industry is very easy to get into. It's not like a blocked industry. You just have to find a way in. I have a lot of friends that tell me, I wish I could get in. I wish, I love the industry. I love the cars. I want to be around cars. And I think it's, there's a lot of angles you can approach them, whether it's sales, marketing, product, technical. So lots of angles. So I think, if you really want to do it, keep at it,
Cool.
Keep at it.
All right. That's it. Gulf Spec Podcast, wherever good podcasts are found, because I can't remember our handles or anything right now. Don't send us any email. We still haven't checked it. Awesome.